Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
October 15, 2020, the Ohio bribe probe goes nuclear edition. First up, the FinCEN has issued an advisory alert alerting banks to red flags that it could indicate unemployment fraud, including emerging schemes exploiting vulnerabilities from the coronavirus, specifically around unemployment claims. So given the unemployment insurance is a prime target for fraudsters, companies, banks, and other institutions need to set up systems to monitor fraud in this current environment because they are certainly being overloaded. Next up, and in today's lead story, fairly horrific, that the ongoing criminal investigation about bribes allegedly paid to the Speaker of the House of Ohio have morphed into a criminal investigation about an alleged bailout of troubled nuclear plants in Ohio. The energy company paid some money as bribes so that they could be bailed out by the government. So this obviously is taking a very serious turn, and the Speaker of the House, who has refused to step down and says he's done nothing wrong, clearly faces more serious questions as nuclear safety is now put in play by these allegations of bribery and corruption. So when people say bribery doesn't hurt anyone, well, in Ohio, if you're near the Davis-Besse nuclear power station in Oak Harbor, you might want to be rethinking that. The Sao Paulo-based conglomerate J&F Investments pled guilty Wednesday to conspiracy to violate the anti-bribery provisions of the FCPA for a scheme to bribe officials in Brazil. The company entered a criminal guilty plea in Brooklyn and agreed to pay a criminal fine of $256 million. The DOJ gave J&F credit for up to half the fine for payments the company has made to Brazilian authorities to settle an earlier Brazilian Companies Act violation. And in a related SEC settlement, a J&F majority-owned subsidiary agreed to pay the SEC disgorgement and prejudgment interest of $28.9 million. The conduct involving the United States was the purchase of 78.5% of Pilgrim's Pride corporations and bribes of Brazilian officials related to that acquisition and that business going forward. And finally, Starbucks has made the decision to tie executive pay to 2025 diversity targets. The goals coincide with President Trump's order barring federal contractors for having diversity training. Trump has decreed that any sort of training along the lines required by Title VII should not occur. Clearly illegal acts on his part. Nevertheless, they have started to go after companies that have diversity training and diversity goals. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Trump administration takes on Starbucks. Clearly, the Trump administration's actions are both racist and antithetical to any type of diverse and inclusive society. Nevertheless, they're moving forward with all deliberate speed into the election. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.